What's up, Star Wars nerds, and welcome to another episode of Brett on Fett. On today's episode, it's Thanksgiving here in the US, and so I'm going to be going over my top 5 things I'm most thankful for in the Star Wars toy collecting world. Plus, the TVC ARC Trooper Fives has finally arrived for those of us who missed out on the initial shipments back in 2020. So we're going to be reviewing Fives and comparing him to Arctroopers Echo and Jesse. Let's get to it.
We would be honored if you would join us.
I see you've brought a turkey.
Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 41 of Brett on Fett, and like I said, it is Thanksgiving here in the United States, a time where we get together with family and friends and eat way too much food in celebration of all that we have to be thankful for. But before we get into the Thanksgiving part of this episode, I do want to talk about ARC Trooper Fives for the Vintage Collection. You see, way back in September of 2020, ARC Trooper Fives was released with that wave that came with Hondo Ohnaka and Chirrut Imwe and Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight. Well, he was a real popular figure then, and there was very limited quantities. I mean, this was at the peak of the COVID pandemic. And so if you didn't get your pre-order in or managed to get in when he first came out, you were pretty much out of luck because there really was only that initial shipment for Fives. And then, you were stuck with having to try to order him through the secondary market and pay a premium. Well, a few months after that, some retailers such as Entertainment Earth offered up pre-orders for another round of ARC Trooper Fives. And collectors such as myself, I was able to pre-order him way back in April of 2021, and they just kept pushing the dates for receipt of him further and further back. And in fact, to this date, 18 months later, I still have not seen my pre-order for Fives fulfilled through Entertainment Earth. However, luckily, a few months back, Big Bad Toy Store started offering Fives for pre-order, and I did place an order for him then. Luckily enough, this past week, Big Bad Toy Store started processing those orders, and a few days ago, I got mine in the mail. And in fact, at the time I am recording this video, Big Bad Toy Store has Fives currently in stock. So now that I finally have Fives in hand, I wanted to give a little review of him and also compare him to his 501st buddies Echo and Jesse for the Vintage Collection. So let's take a look. Alright, here is the ARC Trooper Fives for the Vintage Collection, and looking at the card back first, obviously this is on a Clone Wars card back. And with these Clone Wars figures, the images tend to be these artistic renderings that mix in the real life actors from the movies. But look, he's missing the 5 tattoo on his forehead. Either it's missing or it's just so far on the side of his temple you can't see it with that angle. Either way, I thought it was a poor choice. You can see on the figure the tattoo is more prominently on the middle of the forehead. Looking on the back, it is VC 172, and that top row is the wave that Fives initially was released in. Overall, I think it's a pretty decent card back. The image is pretty good. It's just frustrating that since they chose to go without his helmet on, that they didn't include his unique forehead tattoo. Next up, let's take a look at the figure loose, and luckily his peg holes are big enough to fit on standard pegs, which is nice. And just a really cool figure, a lot of different features. You got the separate shoulder pads there, and you got a soft plastic comma there. Plenty of accessories attached to his belt, the holsters, and nice little paint job on the back backpack there. And the helmet is nicely sized and it fits very snug, which I prefer versus a helmet that's just going to fly off. And the face sculpt is very nice. I love the prominent 5 tattoo on his forehead. It may be a little inaccurate because it's kind of supposed to be more on his temple, but that's not a big deal. Alright, so that's Fives by himself, but now that I have him in hand, I want to take this opportunity to compare him to Arctrooperecho and Arctrooperjesse. As you may recall, those 3 figures were actually first released together as a special action figure pack, released as a PulseCon exclusive in 2020. And it's just taken this long for all 3 figures to get released on their own card backs, with Jesse technically being the last one to be released on card back. It's just that many collectors such as myself are getting Fives last because of the lack of restock until recently. Alright, so let's get the Fives figure out of the way for now and bring in the card backs for Arctrooperecho and for Arctrooperjesse. Now, right off the bat, the first thing you may notice is the difference in shades of yellow used for the name pills. This is unbelievable to me. The Fives and Echo is kind of a mustard yellow, and the Jesse is this bright yellow, just completely different. So very frustrating for OCD collectors like myself. Now, taking a look at the card back for Echo, a very cool image. Notice he has his helmet on versus Fives has his helmet off. The image is cool, but it's a little bit dark for my taste. It's VC 176, and there's the wave he came in. Very cool image, just like I said, a little bit too dark. Now, the Jesse card back I really like. It's very vibrant, very bright, but notice how he has his helmet on, again, unlike Fives who had his helmet off. It's VC 250, and there is the wave Jesse came in. So, yeah, overall, cool looking card backs. It's just the inconsistencies. You got the colors here, the mustard versus bright, and then you got the helmet off versus helmet on. It's just no consistency between these 3 guys that, you know, kind of are supposed to go together. Alright, so next I want to compare these 3 figures loose. Starting with Echo, he's got that handprint on his chest. Fives has kind of a triangular pattern on his chest, and then Jesse has the vertical stripe. So nice little differences on the chest plate. On the sides, you can see, looking at their commas, they're all 3 very different paint jobs, different patterns. So that's a nice touch, and I think it's pretty screen accurate. Now, looking on the back, something I noticed is with their backpack, the paint jobs are slightly different. And I thought this was kind of odd. Starting with Echo, he has just a very slight contrast with that like cylindrical object there on his backpack. And then Fives, they did a little bit more, so it's like a medium contrast there. And then with Jesse, they did the most contrast. I think the most contrast looks the best. I just thought it was interesting how they went with 3 different shades for the backpack of all things. I'm not sure if that was intentional. I'm guessing it was not intentional. And probably has something to do with the fact that these 3 figures were produced so far apart time-wise. And next up, I wanted to compare the head sculpts for the 3 different ARC Troopers. Starting with Echo, he has the clean-cut look, looking very handsome. Spoiler alert, he does not stay that way. And taking another quick look at the head sculpt for Fives for comparison purposes, you can see he's got a different hairstyle and he's got that distinctive 5 tattooed on his forehead, so making him very distinctive from the other clone. So really nice touch, plus he's got that chin beard as well. And last but not least, probably my favorite head sculpt of the 3 is Jesse, mainly because of that awesome gigantic tattoo on his face. That is so cool. Very, very good head sculpt. Best of the 3 in my opinion. But I do love how all 3 have very distinctive head sculpts. And finally, I wanted to closely compare the 3 different helmets for these ARC Trooper figures, starting with Echo's nice little paint job. He's got that cool little pattern on the dome, and then he's got the kind of shark fin painted blue, and some nice gunmetal gray paint on the back. And then it's got the articulated rangefinder, which is always great on these troopers. Next up is Fives. Very cool pattern. I love the dome pattern with the red, eyes and nose, sort of. I don't know if that's a creature or what. Someone tell me in the comments if you know. Of course, he's got the rangefinder, and he's got my favorite pattern on the back of all three helmets. I'm very happy with this particular helmet. And then moving on to Jesse, maybe my favorite paint job because of the huge pattern on the forehead. But unfortunately, they messed up and put a rangefinder on this helmet when Jesse does not have a rangefinder on his helmet. This is actually my son's Jesse, and the first thing he did when I gave it to him was rip that rangefinder off so it would be more accurate. So we may have to fill that in with some putty and paint it or something. But that was a big fail on Hasbro's part to not fix that before producing that figure. So here's one more look at all three figures loose, plus their respective card backs. Overall, very cool figure. I love the ARC Troopers. They're some of my favorite clones. And, they have their faults, some unusual choices by Hasbro with each of them. But overall, very cool figures. As Star Wars figure collectors, we tend to complain a lot. Either we're complaining about certain decisions made by Hasbro, or we're complaining about the status of our packaging, or we're complaining about the pre-order process. We tend to just get kind of swept up in all the negative aspects of the hobby sometimes. And so in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I wanted to focus on the positive and go over my top 5 things I'm most thankful for when it comes to the Star Wars toy collecting world for 2022. And so let's take a look at what I'm most thankful for. Alright, so kicking things off at number 5 for what I am most thankful for this year when it comes to Star Wars toy collecting is the improved distribution and order wait times. With the coronavirus, things under quarantine, distribution was completely messed up. Shelves were empty. Pre-orders were taking forever. I'd say on average, we were waiting at least 6 months for most figures to come in following pre-orders. And it was just a really dark and gloomy time. But then this past year, things really started picking up. Distribution seemed to improve. Those wait times between pre-order and actually receiving the items really seemed to start shortening up a bit, especially here in America, where we were tending to get things way after other countries such as the UK. And it was a bit of a double-edged sword because we were getting so much stuff in at once, so our credit card bills were really getting hit. But I think that was more of a result of just backlogged items finally coming in, and I think it is starting to smooth out pretty evenly. So very happy with the situation and the direction we're going with respect to distribution. At number 4, I am very thankful that the droids Bobafett for TVC finally arrived in the US this year. We pre-ordered him on September 24th, 2021. And he actually started arriving in the UK in January of 2022, which is not bad. However, we didn't get this guy in the US until around May 11th, 2022. That was a pretty long wait and pretty excruciating for me because I was just so excited for this figure. The vintage Kenner Droids version of Boba Fett is a grail of mine. I love that card back. And so I was just so excited to get this guy. And so it was just painful waiting that long. But we finally got him. And he really is one of my favorite figures in my collection. At number 3, I am very thankful for the continued improvement with the quality of the figures that Hasbro is putting out in their Star Wars lines, Blackseries and TVC. We are getting great new molds. We are getting really good repaints, smart repaints. The face sculpts, particularly with TVC, are amazing. We've got some new molds for Mandalorian figures in TVC and Blackseries that are great. And again, some really smart repaints for TVC. We got some awesome Boba Fett's this year. And, the face sculpts for him are excellent. Just really good stuff. And to top it all off, we got an excellent definitive Darth Vader from that Obi-Wan Kenobi line. Just an awesome, awesome figure. I just couldn't be happier with the quality of work that Emily and the rest of the Hasbro Star Wars design team are doing with these figures. Next, if you had kept up with Star Wars action figure collecting talk over the past year or so, then you probably heard of all the growing concerns over Hasbro's plastic-free packaging goals and how that might affect carded figures on bubble, such as the Vintage Collection. Mint-on card collectors such as myself were very afraid that Hasbro was going to take away the plastic bubbles on the packaging and give us something like this, which is an actual Dungeons & Dragons figure Hasbro put out.
Nope. No thank you.
I, for one, was very outspoken about how this decision would have affected my collecting for TVC. The plan could be to phase out the traditional card backs on plastic bubbles in favor of those solid boxes. And that's concerning, and I think that would probably be the end of my collecting, at least for the Vintage Collection.
In my opinion, it's gonna probably kill the line. I mean, eventually, it will for me at least. I'm an in-box collector, so and yeah, TVC is to me is all about the packaging. So, they get rid of the bubble. I'm pretty much out collecting new figures,
But then the fabulous day of July 21st, 2022 arrived, where Hasbro announced that their plastic-free packaging goals would not be extended to their carded traditional figures such as the Vintage Collection, Retro Collection, and even their anniversary carded Black Series. And finally, by far, the number one thing I am most thankful for when it comes to the Star Wars toy collecting world is the generosity of the Star Wars collecting community. I was floored by all the support I got when I started my channel this year, whether it be through established YouTubers promoting my channel or viewers just leaving positive comments. It's been great. And then there's the gift giving. I just seen so many people reach out to other YouTubers and send these awesome gifts. And fairly recently, I got my first awesome gift from a viewer. Oh, no way, dude. No way, man. No way. My friend Brad, who is known as Rocket City Sith on YouTube, sent me this amazing Black Series Bobafett helmet I desperately needed. I mean, my channel is called brettonfett, and I did not have a proper Bobafett helmet. So that was an amazing gift. And on top of that, he even threw in this awesome Rebel Commando Revenge of the Jedi figure I needed for my TVC collection. I mean, I was just overwhelmed by the generosity from this guy. And I see it all the time on other channels. And it's not just channels. I see it on Facebook groups and Discord groups. Collectors helping each other out, watching out for sale deals, or selling items to fellow collectors for a really good price when you know they need that figure. I mean, it's just amazing. The Star Wars collecting community is one of the best communities. I am so happy and lucky to be a part of it. Thank you so much to those of you who are active in the community and take the time to help other collectors out. And a huge thank you to all of you that have supported me in my new channel, whether it be from simply subscribing to my channel and watching my videos regularly, or giving me advice, or leaving me helpful comments, participating with the videos. You just don't know how much it means to me, and I could not have done this without you guys. Alright, so that's going to do it for this episode of Brett on Fett. Let me know in the comments what you're most thankful for when it comes to your toy collecting hobby for 2022. Also, don't forget you can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. Take care, happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time.